So today we're going to go over absolute value equations, and here are the steps that we're going to take. Step 1, we're going to isolate the absolute value part, so that's this part. Step 2, split into two cases, negative and positive. Our next step, step 4, we're going to solve. And our last step, we're going to check our solutions for extraneous solutions. So these solutions that we get, but they don't work. So we're going to see an example of when one solves and a second example of an extraneous solution. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'll leave that just in case you need to copy it, pause the video and copy it. And we'll go ahead and start. So for my first example, remember the first thing I want to do is isolate my absolute value, which right here it's already isolated. So an example, if it wouldn't be, I would have like a 3 over here or a plus 6 over here. So that's how it would look if it wouldn't be isolated. But since my absolute value is already isolated, I can move on. So now I'm going to separate into two cases. And my first case, I'm just going to draw an arrow. And remember, one is negative, one is positive, and I'm talking about this 76 over here. So my 76 is going to be positive, and my 76 is going to be negative. In here, nothing is going to change. So I'm going to write 3x minus 5 without the absolute value. And I'm going to put a negative 76. And over on this side, I'm going to write 3x minus 5, the same thing, without my absolute value, and a positive 76. Okay, so I'm going to do one by one, and I'm going to go ahead and solve it. So over here, I want to isolate my x. So first thing I'm going to do is get rid of my 5, move it over to the other side, and I get 3x equals to negative 71. And then last thing is to divide by 3. And 71 divided by 3 can't be simplified anymore. So that's just the way it's going to stay. And I'm going to block it in so that I know that's my solution. So over here, I'm going to do the same thing. Add 5 to move that 5 over. I get 3x, 81. And then I'm going to divide by 3. And that's going to give me x is equal to 27. And again, I'm going to block that in so I know that's my solution. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to check my solutions. So over on this side, I'm going to check. And let me just separate my work. So the way I'm going to check is I'm going to take my original absolute value and I'm going to substitute each of my solutions into my x. So for the first one, I'm going to have absolute value of 3. And then the first one I'm going to check is that is negative 71 over 3. So negative 71 over 3. And then continue the rest of it. Minus 5 is equal to 76. So I just got that first x and I substituted it into my equation. And this is what I got. It should be a little better. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and continue to simplify it. So I know that when 3 is multiplied and we have a 3 in our denominator, I can go ahead and cancel these out. So I am left with absolute value of negative 71 minus 5 equals 76. And when I add my negative 71 minus 5, I'm going to get negative 76. I had to count that for a little. And then equals 76. And now remember what we had said the very first day that we studied absolute value. Absolute value is a distance, and distance is always positive. So another way of writing the absolute value of 76, remember that's going to be positive 76. And we see that this checks out, so there it is. Okay, so now we're going to check our other one. So our 27. So I'm going to write again, check. And then I'm just going to write down my equation. You don't have to write it down again, but just so that I can see it. Okay, so now I have absolute value of 3, and instead of writing that x, I'm going to write down 27. And continue everything minus 5 equals 76. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. I am going to multiply 3 and 27, which will give me 81 minus 5 equals 76. And when I subtract 81 minus 5, I'm going to get 76 equals 76. So again, absolute value, I'm just going to rewrite it. And yes, that checks out. So my solution set, and I'm going to put little brackets, and I'm going to write my x's. So we're starting negative and then positive. That's how we're going to write them down. So negative 71 over 3 goes first, and 27 goes second. And again, I'm going to box it in just so that I know what my solution is. Okay, so let's see another problem. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to have an extraneous solution. And we're going to see what that looks like right now. So again, I'm going to split it up into a negative and a positive. So over here is going to be my negative, and over here is going to be my positive. Okay, since this is a negative, the negative part, make sure that you look at your signs. Okay, so I'm going to write it out completely just so that we don't miss anything. So I have 2x plus 8 equals a negative, negative 4. Okay, so I have to make this one negative. And since my negative 4 is already negative, this is going to end up becoming positive. So make sure that you write that correctly so that we have the correct sign. So over here, I'm going to rewrite it. Negative 2x plus 8 equals negative 4. Okay, so let's go ahead and rewrite this one. Plus 8 equals, and this becomes positive 4. Okay, so let's go ahead and solve it. Minus 8 minus 8. These are going to cancel. I'm left with 2x equals negative 4. And then I'm going to divide by 2 on each side. And this is going to give me, I'm going to divide by negative 2. This is going to give me x equals 2. Okay, how about on this side? Let's see what I get. So you subtract 8. This is going to leave me with negative 2x equals negative 12. Divide by negative 2 on each side. I am left with 6, a positive 6. Yes, so I'm going to box them in. Make sure I can find my solutions. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and check my solutions. So on this side, I'm going to check. And again, I'm going to write my equation so I know where to substitute my x. Okay, so the first one I'm going to try is this x equals 2. So I'm going to write negative 2. And instead of writing my x, I'm going to write down that 2. And everything else stays the same. Okay, so now I'm going to solve it. So negative 2 times 2 is negative 4 plus 8 equals negative 4. Okay, so the inside we're left with 4 equals negative 4, and we're going to take our 4 out of our absolute value so it stays positive. And as you can see, 4 is not equal to negative 4, so I'm just going to put an x there. Okay, so I'm going to see what happens with my other solution. So we're going to check our second solution. X plus 8 is negative 4. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite it, but instead of writing that x, I'm going to write down our solution. And everything else stays the same. Okay, so solving it, negative 2 times 6 will give me a negative 12 plus 8 will give me negative 4. And absolute value of negative 4 is equal to negative 4. And we know absolute value is the distance. Distance is always positive. So when we take negative 4 outside of the absolute value, it becomes a positive 4. And that is not equal to negative 4. So over here, I'm going to write no solution. Okay. So this one has an extraneous solution. So we have solutions, but they don't work out. So we end up having no solution for this problem.